How's it going, internet land? Welcome to Car News Daily. And in today's video, I'm just gonna chime in on the internet debate, the internet conversation right now. So let's just get right to it. A lot of the people on the internet right now, you got Instagram, you got TikTok, you got YouTube, right? On and on, Twitter, etc., etc. A lot of people right now are getting in on the debate of, well, what's going to be the new future of the world? The new, people talk about 3D, and people talk about, right, 5D and all this stuff, right? And what's the new Earth going to be and all this, right? But in an optimistic way, like no crazy shit, no like crazy conspiracies or anything, like more down to earth stuff. I know there's a lot of crazy stuff out there. So I'm going to give my 2 cents. I'm going to chime in because I've seen a lot of other people chiming in and giving their theory. So a lot of people talk about, like, well, you want to read 48 Laws of Power, you want to read the 50th Law of Power, right? The book by 50 Cent. You want to, and yeah, that's cool. That definitely applies to some things. And then a lot of other people talk about, well, you want to build your network is your net worth, and the same 5 people that you have around you is going to influence who you are. Okay, maybe. All right. I would say definitely, at least to some amount. But here's where my conversation is going to differ from a lot of people. Here's where my opinion is going to differ from a lot of people. Not saying I'm better than anybody else. I'm just saying this is where my opinion is going to differ from a lot of other people. So a lot of other people are saying, you want to build wealth and you want to be super laser focused on money and all this. And yeah, I mean, you know what? Money is good if you can definitely get it to go exponential. The problem is a lot of business models are linear, so you basically run out of time. You try to work 80 hours a week, and then you realize that by buying so much food to supply the fuel to get the 80 hours a week and the gas money to get to the second job, you realize that you basically haven't made much more money anyway. And, but hey, if you can make it work, make it work. If you can pull off a miracle, make it work, make it work. But I look at it like motivation. I think like motivation is not linear. Like motivation, and just to finally get to the subject here, the purpose of life is like the meaning behind things. Why are you doing what you do? If you're just chasing money, that'll motivate you for a while, but eventually it's going to get boring. It's not going to have motivation at the highest level. And that's where my belief system comes in, because I think it's good to have like multiple motivating factors. One is money. So, hey, if you want $1 billion, that's one motivating factor. But I think it's kind of like having a legacy and having a purpose and thinking like so just unbelievably above the normal regular goals that people have. Because honestly, I think if you're thinking about making 6 figures eventually one day or whatever, to me, that's just not motivating enough to put myself through unbelievable work ethics. It's just not, But if you're thinking about making like a lot of money, and then on the other side of that coin, if you're thinking about having purpose, so, how many other people can you help besides yourself? You know what I mean? And that's where stuff gets interesting. That's where stuff to me gets really motivating, And just to get to the conclusion, I think it's more like, if you look at a guy like, growing up, I looked at Wayne Gretzky as the all-time, just the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Like, the guy had 212 points in a season. That's like superhuman. If you get 100 points in a season, it's pretty phenomenal. It's absolutely like you're on the all-star team. You're probably going to start in the all-star game if you have over 100 points. This guy did 212, scored 92 goals. The most goals in a season is on a regular year is like 50, 55, maybe 60. On a good year in the NHL, the guy put up 92 goals, right? So I'm like, okay, well, why the hell am I talking about this? The point is that if you're helping yourself and you're putting up numbers, that's cool. Okay, I just put $1 million in my bank account. Awesome. But to me, where things get really, really motivating is when you start thinking about Okay, well, how many numbers am I putting up in the stats of meaning? Meaning of life. The meaning of life, well, what if I could help 1,000 people like double their money? What if I could help 1,000 friends, acquaintances, and family over the years? What if I could help 1,000 people that I've met at different jobs, schools, colleges I've went to, attended college and all that, obviously went to like 3 different colleges. People I've worked with, I've worked 21 jobs on the books, okay? Played on 27 hockey teams, played on 9 baseball teams, okay? And been in a whole bunch of car clubs and other things with cars and car show groups that I've hung out with. What if I could help 1,000 people 200% their money? What kind of ripple effect would that be? Right? Or what if I got real savvy and real clever and real knowledge and wisdom based on health, and I could help half of my friends live more than an extra 10 years or 20 years because I have all these guru strategies for health, different things to eat, right? Different supplements, right? So to me, it's like now you feel the energy. I don't know if you feel the energy, but the energy just changed in the conversation, right? And I'm just chilling by myself recording this for YouTube. But before I was talking about money. Oh, $1 million in a pile. Nice. That's cool. All right. That's motivating. That's a good thing, right? That's good vibes. People talk about money's evil or the root of evil. That's complete bullshit, right? But money is good. But when you start talking about, okay, and I just wanted to do this as like a little experiment. If you start talking about money plus, I just helped 1,000 people that I know because I gave them health advice. Keep in mind, I did a half a doctorate of pharmacy. I worked in 5 different pharmacies, for over 5 years. I know a lot of health things. I do know a lot of health guru tips and stuff. I'm not the best, but I definitely know some advanced things in certain areas, and I know what it feels like to give medical consultation because I was cleared to give medical consultation on over-the-counter drugs and prescription drugs. I was cleared legally to do that because I was a pharmacy intern, 1 notch below a doctorate of pharmacy graduate. So I know the energy exchange. I feel the energy, and I understand by actually doing it that if you help people, you see someone there, they're like, hey, look, I'm on like 10 different pills, and they're like trying to extend their life, you know what I mean? And they're trying to like literally not die, and you're like looking them in the eye and you're going, you know what? Let me give this person some advice, because who knows, maybe the conversation I have right now will put another 10 years on the end of their life. They'll live more than 10 years longer. And you see it work and you're like, okay, that kind of energy that you just upgraded somebody's life, that's like supernatural energy. That's good energy, And to me, that's what the new future Earth should be about. It should be about, that should be one of the stats. That's all I'm saying. So if you're really obsessed with hockey like I am and I was, and I wanted to play professional roller hockey until I found out there's no money in professional roller hockey, but I definitely set out to do it. And when I was 18, I was definitely amazing skill level and all that, but then I quit because I found out there's no money in it. But I looked up to Gretzky. I looked up to, Ovechkin and these people, and the top players. Brett Hull, he put up like 80-something goals one season, right? I looked up to these guys because I said, all right, well, they're putting up the biggest numbers. So it's not like, oh, well, they're just popular or a lot of people say they're cool. It's like, no, like they're literally putting up milestone numbers that are going to be in the record books for probably hundreds of years, so that to me meant something. It was something real, and is something that had real skill behind it. You can't fake that shit. Like some people might cheat on a test in college or whatever. You can't cheat on that shit. Like you can't cheat on putting up 92 goals in the NHL. There's no cheating. Brett Hull put up over 80 goals. There's no cheating there, right? And on, all the greatest of the greats. So to me, it was real to me. It was the realest thing that I seen growing up. That the only way to get there was beyond massive work, beyond incredible skill, and just beyond incredible willpower to create those numbers and create those stats. So it always made me reflect, okay, well, everybody on the internet, or a lot of people on the internet, are always like, what's the meaning of life, right? And I think that, yes, money's really important. You can help your friends and your family, but I start looking at it like, I look at a lot of things like life is a sport in many ways. And I think one of the biggest stats that people should be looking at more, and I think they will be looking at more in the future, is how many people did you help, right? And I think it's a good, interesting way to look at things. I'm not telling anybody what to believe in. Everybody has their own free will that they get to decide what they want to believe and what they want to talk about and what, religion they want to be with and all that. But at the same time, I think my belief system is definitely a good outside the box way to look at things. So I think that hopefully people talk about what's the new earth and what's the new earth going to be like for the new next astrological age, right? Every 2,150 years. It's like the most basic thing in astrology. Every 2,150 years, there's a new age. And then after that goes by, 2,150 years later, it's a new astrological age, right? We just started the new age in 2012. And everybody on the internet that's into that stuff is like, well, what's that mean? What's it going to be like? What's going to be the upgrade to the world? Well, obviously we're going to have to wait and find out. But I think that, just to wrap up this conclusion, just the way that everybody in the world sees the same Hollywood celebrities and the same big movies, from, drama to comedy to action movies, and the same big TV shows and the same super famous athletes, I think it's kind of bringing everybody on the same page. Where back in the day, people were, in certain parts of the world, they were secluded and kind of sheltered, and they didn't have access to like different ideas. And now it's like everybody has access to the same ideas, or at least like more than 99% of the planet. Unless you live in some rare place where you're not allowed to watch certain TV shows and watch certain movies, that's a whole nother conversation. But basically what I'm saying is that 200 years ago, people didn't have access to being on the same page. People didn't have access to seeing all the same athletes and seeing all the same really good personalities and really good motivational speeches by celebrities while they're on stage, or motivational speeches at the Grammys and all this like that. That's putting everybody on the same page. And in a way, I know there's a lot of doom and gloom in the world, but in a way it's letting people have some kind of a common ground where people can go, okay, well, our consensus on what is good and what is great and what is excellent type of goals and beliefs and morals, at least there's like a consensus on that, where everybody could be kind of on the same page or around the same page, right? So question becomes, will that be more of the conversation? How much money did you make? Yes, that's always going to be there. But how many lives did you save? How many people, if you're in the healthcare industry like I was for many, many years, how many people did you put years on to the end of their life by giving them health advice? Say if you gave a good piece of advice to 100 people, and each person you gave that piece of wisdom to, you just put over 10 years on the end of their life. Well, do the math. 100 people times 10 years, that means you literally just put over 1,000 years of people staying alive, over 1,000 years longer, that are living their life around this planet. When they're alive longer, they could help their kids, they could help their grandparents, they could help their aunts and uncles, they could help their friends. That's, that's more real than, a third dimensional inanimate object piece of money. That's a third dimensional inanimate object. You know what I mean? So, not knocking on the idea of getting rich. I'm definitely trying to get wealthy eventually. But people online, I've seen a lot of people saying, hey, what is the new paradigm, right? You want to use a fancy word, paradigm, or you just use the word, what is the new consciousness or the new belief system, they're all the same thing, just different words. What's the new belief system going to be for the next astrological age? Well, I think the way it's going, I think people aren't going to be like worshipped or whatever you want to call it or praised just because their bank account has 3 or 4 more zeros than the other guy that looks just like them and sings just like them and dresses just like them. I don't think it's gonna cut it. You know? Nothing, once again, I know people try to say this and that, but nothing against getting wealthy. I'm trying to get super wealthy eventually if it's possible. But I just think that that's going to be one of the common denominators. That's the phrase I was forgetting the whole time. Common denominators. I think that's going to be one of the common denominators of who kind of gets judged as like who's doing the biggest things. You know what I mean? So that's just my take on it. I think it's going to be the stats of who gets the most respect and who gets the most praise and who's the most impressive person. I think in the future, it's going to bend in that direction a lot more of, hey, this doctor saved like 40,000 lives. Like, holy shit. Like, that's pretty amazing. Like, that's on some like superhero shit, like real life, like Marvel superhero type shit. This guy saved 40,000 lives in his, record of being a doctor for 10 years or whatever it is, right? I think that is going to be, and if you're doing amazing work like that, you're going to have a lot of money. You're going to get rich. But I think that's going to be more like the conversation, To me, I think that's going to be more the conversation. That's going to, right? In the past, we had Wayne Gretzky. We had this guy had this many Super Bowls. We had this guy had this many home runs in the baseball, which is all amps me up. I like sports. But I'm just saying, I think in the new, because everybody wants to chime in online. Well, this is my opinion. I think the new paradigm of the new age of Earth, and I know I'm going on and on here, but it's a pretty complex conversation to ask the question, to pop the question of what's going to be the new belief system or the new paradigm, right? Or the new belief system of the entire planet. It's a pretty complex conversation, right? So, hence, I've been talking for a little under 20 minutes. But that's just my take on it. That's what I think it's going to be. I think that, it's going to be a combination of, because let's be honest, it's not the most complicated thing in the world to judge somebody on different stats. We already do it in sports. We've done it in sports the whole time, right? In baseball, if somebody has a lot of home runs but their batting average sucks, they're not a legend. They're not a Hall of Famer. It's just reality, right? It's fact, right? If they're a terrible fielder in base, it's 3 variables in baseball at the bare minimum. Are you a good fielder? Do you have a good batting average? And do you hit a lot of home runs? If you suck at 1 out of 3 and you're only good at 2 out of 3, you're never going to be called a GOAT. You're never going to be called a legend. You're never going to be called a Hall of Famer. That's just fact. So, okay. So whoever gets the most praise and the most respect and is the most impressive person in society, whether they're a businessman, whether they're an athlete, whether they're a singer, whether they're an entrepreneur, whether they're an inventor, whether they're etc., any kind of famous person, I think that the future, people are going to be on that wavelength. I think people are going to be on that conversation more as far as, okay, well, how many people did this person help? And it doesn't always have to be saving lives. It could be, your book. You wrote a book that motivated people and put people from being kind of miserable or just not really happy, just kind of bored with life and just, not really in a good mood, just kind of boring life and everything. And then they read that book and it's like, holy shit, like I'm feeling freaking super happy. Like I'm feeling like I won the fucking lottery every day. So that's also legit, like really a lot of value. It doesn't have to be you save someone's life. But like it doesn't have to be that you save someone's life as a doctor. Which, nothing against that. That's obviously one of the most best things that somebody could be doing as far as actual value. So just to loop back to the original idea, and keep in mind, it's about to be up there. It is 20 minutes. People criticize and say, oh, well, you're talking too long and things. Do me a favor. If you think 20 minutes is a long time to talk, go back to the presidential debates of Abe Lincoln. Okay? Abe Lincoln was not an idiot. He was not like some low intellectual guy. Like, he was incredibly intelligent. I don't agree with everything he did in his whole lifetime, but he was extremely intellectual, very, very understanding of all kinds of things, financial systems, banking systems, all kinds of advanced economics and things. When he debated at his presidential debate to become president, not just him, but his competitor, each of their rebuttals lasted 20 minutes. That's how people spoke back then. Because back then, people didn't scroll on TikTok and watch a video for 9 seconds and then move on to the next video. People read a book. They didn't have TV. I'm not trying to be like a grandpa, but people didn't have TV. They didn't have TikTok. They didn't have cell phones. They literally sat there, opened up a 100-page book, and read it from end to end. It wasn't a big deal. There wasn't much else to do. They didn't even have electricity. So, I'm just saying, talking for 20 minutes is not crazy. It's literally like the way it's been for hundreds and hundreds of years. People talking for 10 seconds on TikTok or 30 seconds on TikTok, and that's considered a thesis or a symposium or a theory. That's a new thing. That's never been a thing. That's never been normal. So I'm just throwing that out there for the people that don't know about that. That's what I said is true. So yeah, long story short, it's not really short, but just to wrap up my idea, I think that's going to be a lot of going to be the new judgment and the new criteria of what's going to be considered to be the most impressive people. People that either save a lot of lives as a doctor, or people that help a lot of people go from not really being too happy, just being kind of like mediocre in their happiness, to going to be like really happy, whether that's through like an invention or a book or an app, something like that. Maybe a motivational speaker could fit that category, or a religious person could fit that category of putting people in a way better mood. Because not for nothing, if you have a lot of wealth or you own a lot of land, but you're not happy, I mean, are you really winning? So I'll let everybody else decide that. But that's just my take on it. I think in the future, those are going to be some more of the common denominators or the criteria for who are considered to be the most respectable and the most impressive people, and just the people that are just praised and the most respected and the most impressive people. I think in the future, as people literally have internet and have more access to information than the newspaper, which is on literally a 4th grade reading level and doesn't talk about much things outside the box, because that's their business model. Not knocking on them, but that's basically what it is. Then, I think in the future, the criteria is going to be more like including, not saying against money. I don't think it's going to be against money at all. I think money is always going to be there, which is cool. I think that's definitely cool with me. But, because like I said, I'm trying to get wealthy eventually. But I think it's not just going to be like a transactional conversation. I think it's going to be more about how many people outside of yourself did you help? Because to me, like, when you see some of these celebrities have done that. Some of these celebrities could say, hey, not only did I get rich, but I helped my whole friend group get rich. Like, to me, that makes me do a double take. Like, all right, this person's got something special going on, like spiritually. Like, this person is an advanced being, that they didn't just hoard all the money to themselves. They had the higher level kind of spiritual IQ, if you want to call it that, to distribute it out to their circle of their inner circle of friends. So all their friends could feel like they won the lottery. Not just them feeling like they won the lottery, but all their friends feel like they won the lottery. Or all their friends feel like they're wealthy and they're just no worries, complete peace of mind, everything is good. Anything comes up, they got it covered. And they got no worries in the world. That to me is that's where somebody changes from just a regular person to somebody changes to a hero. And I think that kind of circles around to that same conclusion that I put out there of like, okay, well, what's the meaning of life? And there's a lot of meanings of life. I don't think there's just one, but I think that as we get more deeper and more intelligent as a species, right? Because you're either downgrading or upgrading. So I like to be an optimist. I like to think that the world is upgrading, because if we're downgrading, then we're failing. So I don't think we're failing as a planet. That would be pretty sad, right? So, I mean, I like to think that the world is upgrading. And I think that as we look on TikTok and YouTube and all these things, there are a lot of intelligent conversations and a lot of intelligent videos and things that you can upgrade your wisdom and upgrade your intellect and upgrade just knowing what's valuable and what's stupid, you know? And I think that the internet is probably one of the best things that's happened in the world, because it lets people that aren't super lazy, but people that have the capacity to sit there and study and learn, it gives them the ability to just totally transform their whole mind and their whole wisdom level and knowledge level. And that really was never possible. I mean, you could say you can go to a library, but have you been to a library? It's like, it's not really compatible with the internet. The internet just has way more information, is way easier to get, and it's just on a whole nother stratosphere of usefulness. The amount of wisdom I can get off the internet in an hour compared to the library, it might take me 100 days to get the same information digging through books in a library. I could find it in under 30 minutes on the phone. Realistically, I'm not knocking on the library, but it's just reality. So it's totally on a whole nother stratosphere. And with people having that in front of them on their phones all day, I'm going to wrap this up in under 30 minutes. People having that on their phone all day, I think over time, it's going to upgrade the whole global conversation, where people they're going to be more on the same page. And I think things, hopefully, in conclusion, finally, for the next astrological age, people say, oh, what's the new astrological age going to be? I think it's going to upgrade a lot, where people are going to be judged based on, or they're going to be judged technically based on not just the fact that their bank account is more zeros than the other guy that does everything the same as them. You got two people, maybe identical twins, same exact genetics, same everything. Their weightlifting numbers are the same. Their sports ability is the same. Everything is the same. But one of them has a way bigger bank account. But in every single way, they're just completely mediocre. But one guy has a way bigger bank account. But they're boring people. Like, for the example, they're both completely boring people. They got nothing going on that's interesting. The personality's boring. Everything about their life's boring, but one guy has a lot of money. Is that person supposed to be like the sought after person to look to for knowledge and wisdom and seek advice? No. Right? So what are the people to look to ask advice on how to go about doing something? To how to go about upgrading a business, or upgrading, a civilization, how to run a city, how to run a town, how to upgrade the environment. Who are the people to trust? Who are the people to go to that you could actually trust to help the other people? Who would you go to, right? That's the new conversation, I think. I think the new conversation is you're going to go to the people that are putting up numbers, And of course, it's relative to the resources you have. So if you're starting with, tens of millions of dollars, if you're starting with that, then of course, you're going to be able to help more people. But relevant to how much resources they have and how much money they have, how many people have they helped? If there's some guy that's just completely standing out from the crowd, that he helps his friends way more than everybody else, and he tries to help his friends and tries to help his family way more than anybody else, then it's a no-brainer. That's the guy that if you put in charge and make him the mayor, he's going to help way more than anybody else because he's been doing it for years. It's not rocket science, right? So when people ask, oh, well, who should be the vice president of the company because they're going to help all the workers? Well, don't put the guy in charge who's never helped anyone else except himself, because he's going to continue to do this same thing, help no one and hoard all the money and resources for himself. It's not going to change if that's how somebody's been living their whole life or for many, many years in the past, right? You got to put the person in there as the vice president of the company. These big companies, people get surprised. Well, how come my wages don't go up? Because you work for a mega corporation, and the people in charge for some of these companies, have never helped anyone in their life except themselves. So why do you think they're going to start helping you now? They've never done it before. Why would they start now? Right? So I think that just to finally get to the conclusion, the people who are going to get the most praise and the most respect and be considered the most impressive people in the future are going to be the people that put up numbers, stats, not just how much money they make, but put up stats and put up the stats of the numbers of how many people around them they helped. How many people around them they helped. So did you get your workers more money? Did you get your workers more bonuses? Did you get your workers a better deal on this percentage commission and that? And I obviously I have a job, but I'm not talking about where I presently work at all. I'm talking more about big mega corporations and stuff. Because that's always on the news and on Fox Business and MSNBC Business and all the other business shows on TV, right? I'm talking about them, really. I'm talking about the big stores. The big box stores and things like that. Big websites, big companies. Right? Because that's what steers our civilization in one direction or the other. They have a pretty big percentage on what goes on. For better or for worse. They make a big difference. So, that's my conclusion right there. That's the end of the summary. I think that the people that are going to be considered the greatest heroes of society, the most respected, the most impressive people, the most liked people in society, I think are going to be the people putting up the biggest numbers in not only just making money, but how many people did you help? How many of your friends did you help? How many of your workers did you help? How many, for the healthcare people, how many lives did you save? For the motivational speaker or religious people, how many people's lives did you take from being miserable or people having a boring life to making people feel like many people changing their life and making them feel like they won the lottery, making them feel really, really happy? How many people did you help outside of just yourself? I think that's going to be the new sort of belief system of the future, of the next age of the future. So there you go. I finally put my 2 cents in. I've been thinking this idea for a long time, and I just thought it while I had the phone in my hand. So I'm like, you know what? Let me throw it in there and record it. I literally winged the whole thing. I probably would have been able to give some better stories and examples if I would have wrote it down and had a little script, a little paper with some talking points, but I literally wrote nothing down. Like, you look at my card, there's nothing here. So I literally winged the whole thing off the top of my head. But even though it took a little while, less than 35 minutes, at least I was able to put my real opinion out there, right? I could have put a 30-second video out there and cracked a joke and, pretended to be cool, like a lot of people on TikTok, but there's no wisdom in that. To really get the whole story across with all the different metaphors and all the different comparisons and measurable data and measurable scientific proof of my theory, I had to go through the whole conversation, because that's the only way to get the whole story across, is to tell the whole story. So that's my opinion. Go on YouTube, go on TikTok. You're going to see a whole bunch of other people talking about it. What's going to be the new Earth? What's going to be the future of the new Earth? Right? So other people are going to say different things. This is my 2 cents. This is what I think the future, the upgraded future of the new Earth is going to be. I think it's going to be many of the things I just said. And as I study the situation more and study this niche of information more, my intuition is telling me that I'm going to see even more interesting things. So look for a part 2, because I'm trying to study these things, because this is the kind of stuff that motivates me. I'm just an intellectual person. I like to get into these things and look at these things and study these things. It's just interesting to me. So look for a part 2 eventually. I'll probably put that out there in less than 30 days. And if you can, like it and subscribe it. Let's get that algorithm working so I can get some more views. All right. Thanks for your time. And one more thing, if you actually want to chime in, I'm going to be doing a podcast where we do these kind of conversations, but more on legit like a 5 to 10 minute time limit. Nothing past like 5 or 10 minutes. Because this is just something I winged. So if you actually like these conversations and you want to debate it up, and you want to debate up some deep conversations on this subject, send me a message, and I'm probably going to have a podcast eventually where I get into these things. Just, no politics. I don't do politics. No conspiracy theories. It's got to be kind of, TV ready. No conspiracy theories, no politics. Just regular intellectual debate, normal things, normal History Channel things, Discovery Channel, normal stuff. So if you're into that, send me a message. Let me know. I'm probably going to get a podcast going, and we could debate it up to the end of the earth. All right, have a good one.